Tom Clark's Main Event is a Boink Studios production. Follow us on Twitter at Boink Studios and check out our Facebook page where you can see all of our projects, past, present, and future. And now, on with the show.
This is Daddy's show. Step off.
Hey, hey, what is up? Welcome to the program, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Clark, and you are listening to Tom Clark's Main Event. This is episode number 55 of the podcast, and if you're joining us today for the very first time, we will bid you welcome. If you're coming back for a repeat visit, we say, hey, thanks for checking back in with us. And to all those involved, we will extend to you, as always, the customary laurel and a hearty handshake. Thanks for listening. Thanks for reading. Thanks for following and supporting. And hey, thanks for always being there, Doc. Number 55. Sweet, right? What's up, man? I'm Tom. This is my show. Thank you. So glad you are with us. You're going to have to excuse me a little bit. I've been battling the crud for a good week and a half, 2 weeks now. It's mostly just congestion, allergies and the like. And, not a fun time. My kids got them really bad for whatever reason. Don't even know why. But they've just gotten, progressively worse as the months have went on. You know the test they do where they put the needles on your back? Boy, that wasn't fun for him. And his back lit up like a Christmas tree, let me tell you. He's allergic to basically everything. He's allergic to dogs, cats, grass, trees, wood, air, eyelids, everything. Water. I've got to put him in a bubble or something. He's going to be the boy in the bubble. We're just going to roll him around the house and roll him down the street and, roll him to Chuck E. Cheese whenever he wants to play. But anyway, he's getting shots now, so that's good. Isn't it great how you just tune into the show and get all kinds of information you didn't care about? Well, listen, man. This is my show, so I can talk about whatever I want to talk about. Get it? I'm just playing. We're here to talk about wrestling. That's what we do, yes. This is the main event. There's other podcasts that yours truly has where we talk about stuff other than pro wrestling. And can I be honest with you, I'm starting to get the itch again to record, to do something different. I'm not really sure what it's going to be, but yeah, talking about other stuff, besides wrestling, besides comic books. And yeah, I know it's hard to believe there's stuff besides that. It's crazy, right? But I don't know, man, just talking about life in general, you know what I mean? And I don't know. Let me know what you think. I typically tend to get some good reactions, some good response from you guys. So keep those emails coming, and I'll be sure to read them and respond in kind. So as I sit here recording this, I'm rewatching Money in the Bank that took place on Sunday, June 19th. And the show is just kicking off here. And of course, it was a Shield-heavy show. And we all know what happened on that show. So let's go ahead and get to the thrust of what this particular episode is. Because the main event this time around is the Shield Triumphant. I was going through, what I thought I was gonna, call this particular episode, and it just seemed like the best title, man. By far, it just seemed like the way to go because, the Shield is, in my opinion, pound for pound, the most successful story that WWE can lay claim to the past 10 years. And in my opinion, the biggest success story since, I'm going to say, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And maybe even more so because, they didn't really create Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin did that himself. And they may have opened the door for him, but at the same time, Austin kind of, had a great big hand or should say great big boot in kicking that door down. So I don't know how much of credence you would lend to that, but, I don't think, and I've never seen it as Vince McMahon creating Stone Cold Steve Austin or Vince Russo or anyone else. I think that the opportunity was given to him to do something, and he took full advantage of it, and he proved to them that he could do it. Whereas the Shield was a concept that was built from the ground up. And I think, and we've often talked in terms of the WWE assembly line. It's a phrase that I've used multiple times over the years that I've been writing, and I think it holds true in a lot of instances, especially in terms of Roman as a solo superstar. You could actually say that he rolled off the WWE assembly line. And, really what we're talking about right now is the idea that you have a talent who is, let's say, he's not firmly established and he's not really gone anywhere in terms of having truly done anything of that nature, doing anything other than getting trained. He knows some people, he gets his foot in the door and he starts wrestling, just sort of learning his craft. But, there's a great big difference between doing that and doing what Austin did before he got to WWE. And a gigantic difference, to be honest with you. And here it is in the nuts and bolts of it. When I talk about the assembly line, you're talking about the Shield was created. Now, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins had their careers before WWE, and you got to respect that. Austin did as well, but Roman really did not. And these three were not together as the Shield. They might have been given the name, they might have been given the idea and the gimmick in which to get them onto the main roster, but they had to make it work. They had to make it work themselves. Whereas you look at an act like Enzo and Big Cass, and I can't swear to this, but everything about Enzo and Big Cass seems very organic to me. It feels as though, they came up with it, they worked on their routine, and they're the ones who hit pay dirt with it. The WWE may have, again, given them a platform, but it was up to Enzo and Cass to make it count. And man, they have made it count. They're one of the hottest acts in WWE right now. They really are, and I love those guys. So I think you get where I'm going with this. But the Shield may have been built on WWE's assembly line, but it was up to the men involved to make it work. And again, for my money, I truly believe that they're the biggest success story that company has had since Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I think you could have said that. You could have said that about Daniel Bryan, honestly. But again, Daniel had a career before he ever got to WWE. Now, the fact that Daniel found success in WWE is quite amazing, considering that I don't believe to this day that they thought he was going to become anything other than just a good hand. That they never saw him getting over as a main event superstar. Screw that, megastar. I don't think that they saw that at all. I think that they looked at Daniel and said, well, he's going to be he's going to be another Dolph Ziggler in which, he's going to make everybody else look good. He's going to turn in good matches, and that's all he's going to be good for. But at the end of the day, he connected with fans just like Enzo and Cass did, just like Stone Cold Steve Austin did, and just like the Shield did. And you have to say that the Shield, and I've said this before actually in very recent columns that I've written online, you have to say that the Shield was built, they were assembled for the sole purpose of becoming the next main event superstars in WWE. We're talking about top guys. They were assembled for that purpose in order to gel and to learn their craft as a team and to get over with the crowd and to connect. And then they were disassembled when the company felt it was the right time to pull the trigger and separate the trio into separate entities. And it's got to be one of the most brilliant pieces of booking that I've seen in years. It was smart. It worked. It was a great concept. I can't say enough good things about the Shield. And trust me, I was one of those guys at the very beginning that said, oh, great, here we go, Nexus Part 2. And then 2 minutes after I made that comment, I stopped and I looked at the big picture and I said, dude, this is a lot more than just the Nexus Part 2. This is a lot more than, a mini NWO. This is the real deal. These three guys are going to definitely do something. I was familiar with Rollins. I was familiar with Ambrose. Didn't know a lot about Reigns. I know the concept was pitched to Punk, and Punk wanted Chris Hero, longtime friend and colleague in the business. And WWE said no, they wanted Roman in the mix instead of Chris Hero. Funny how that works. You wonder, now years later, how would that have worked? I mean, you often think, it's just a side note here, but you often wonder how would things have worked had it been the other person. I was having a discussion not too long ago about Dougray Scott, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing the name. He's an actor, and he was the one that was originally chosen for Wolverine. But he was filming the sequel to filming a Mission Impossible sequel. And I think it was his hand he broke during filming, and so he had to opt out of playing Wolverine, so the role went to Hugh Jackman. The rest, as they say, is history. And you look at photos of Dougray Scott, and you look at his acting, you look at things he's done, and you're like, dude, he's not bad. Maybe he could have pulled it off, but at the same time, how could it not be Hugh Jackman as Wolverine? He's such an amazing Logan in so many ways, so good at what he does, and so believable, and he's become an iconic actor in that role. It's like saying that RDJ was not the best choice to play Iron Man. You've got to be kidding me right now. So take all that back a moment to the Roman Reigns Chris Hero comparison, and look at all the problems that Reigns has had in terms of getting over and connecting with the crowd. Had it been Chris Hero, would it have worked out better? I mean, hard to imagine that the chemistry would have been any better, but maybe it would have been. I mean, Hero's a good worker. He's good talent, But, that's neither here nor there. That's one of those what-if examples that you can often point to and say, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like Mark Jindrak being the original member of Evolution until he was voted out and Batista was put in. So, it's again, it's neither here nor there, but it's just an interesting thing to think about because of the three guys. Roman has had the hardest time getting over, which has been kind of a surprise because, as we said before, this is a gimmick that was assembled for the sole purpose of disassembling it. That was the reason it exists in the first place. And, talking a little bit about the Nexus was formed and assembled to begin with to get John Cena over. I mean, it's no disrespect to John in any way. I mean, people can take that comment however they want to, but I mean, the Nexus was formed just to get John over. The Nexus was put together so John could tear them down. Because in the end of the day, you can talk to me all day long about, well, Tom, you can, take the same theory about the Shield and apply it to the Nexus and say, yeah, Tom, it works both ways, right? Because, the Nexus was built to get all these guys over. No, it wasn't. I mean, I think that WWE had all these talents. They saw a good storyline. They had the hopes that someone would break out. But when no one really broke out, and the best talent of the bunch was Barrett, but they couldn't do right by him, and then in the end they still couldn't do right by him, and he ended up leaving the company. I mean, I think the Nexus was a washout. I think that their initial attack on John on Raw that night and left people speechless was an amazing moment in the history of that show and for that company. I mean, I know it's a big statement to make, honestly, obviously, but dude, go back and look at the biggest moments of Monday Night Raw and tell me where this moment falls. Because in terms of shock and awe and completely unexpected, because no one saw it coming, and that is the best. That's one of the best moments because, and that's the best thing about the business is. And that company, when they're firing on all cylinders, is that, the unexpected is what keeps people coming back. It's what makes people happy. And wrestling fans tend to complain a lot. You guys know that. If you're a wrestling fan, you probably complain. We all do. It's to varying degrees. And why we complain is it varies. And the motivations and reasons behind it can change from one person to the next. Sometimes the complaints are good, sometimes they're logical, and sometimes they're downright ridiculous. But at the end of the day, wrestling fans are not that hard to please. We just want it to be fun, and part of it being fun is the unexpected, is the holy God, I can't believe that just happened moment. The Nexus was part of that. The Shield was part of that too. But again, back to what we were saying, the Shield they were built to reign in WWE, and it's working out tremendously. Dean Ambrose is your new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Now, all three guys have held the championship. Okay, let's think about that for just a minute. How do you measure the success of the Shield as a faction? Well, this is it. All three guys have held the title. And all three guys, by the way, held the title on the same night on June 19th at Money in the Bank. if that's not a direct indictment on the success of the Shield gimmick and a true statement on where WWE wants these three guys to be in terms of being main event stars and top guys and main event talent and carrying the company, then, I don't know what is, because it's amazing stuff. And, Dean Ambrose, WWE World Heavyweight Champion, a moment that a lot of us thought maybe would never get here because of the three, he had the weakest amount of spotlight. Because how many matches has Dean won in the past 6 months? 12. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't have any idea, but it's not very good, probably. But, that's really what it amounts to. Seth had a tremendous run. Roman has had, God, a run that God would be proud of. You know what I mean? And just, unbelievable stuff that guy's been handed. And again, a lot of people will criticize and complain, as we said before, about complaining. But they'll do it in terms of taking personal shots. I never take a personal shot at Roman. Never have. I have no need to do it now, even though the guy's, in a bit of trouble, as we'll cover here in just a second. But I have no desire to take personal shots at Roman. But I will say this, of all the talent that I've seen the past 5 years or so, he's been handed more than anything else besides John Cena in terms of, okay, let's open this door. Let's open that door. Let's open this door. In fact, let's not only open the door, let's hold your hand and walk you through it. I mean, dude, you have to say, maybe not since Lex Luger in the NWA have I seen such a massive example of, God, this guy looks good. Oh, man, look at the body. Man, look at him. He could put him on a poster and sell some tickets, man. And boy, he's got, the girls love him and, that kind of thing. But, Lex didn't really work. I mean, they put him with the Four Horsemen, and it was a tough sell. I mean, he did the best he could to make it work, but Lex was never a talker. Never. So, and to me, that's a lot of where Roman's issues come from, is that he's a lot like Lex in terms of not the best talent in the ring, not the best talent in the locker room. But he's what they want. And again, open this door, open that door, open this door, open that door. How many doors do you think are going to be open for Roman now, considering, yes, he failed the wellness policy. He's got a wellness policy violation. Failed drug test, apparently. Now, you're looking at me and you're thinking, Tom, what's the skinny? What did he take? I don't know. I'm not going to get too wrapped up into it. Now, if it was an illegal narcotic, and I'm not suggesting that it was, because it could have been anything, right? You can suggest anything you want to. I'm not saying that it was an illegal narcotic. If it was just on WWE's list of banned substances, a supplement or something that he shouldn't have took, he took mistakenly or he took knowingly and said, I won't get caught or whatever. That's one thing. But, if he smoked a bag of weed, if he took a hill in a crack pipe, if he did a line or two or something insanely crazy, then that's sort of, cause for some true, real concern on the part of Vince McMahon, the entire McMahon family, and the entire company, and the fans that love this guy. Okay. But, I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about that. But, here's the thing. And again, I'm not trying to make light of it, and I'm not trying to suggest he did anything, horrendous. Again, it could have just been one banned substance. I don't have any idea what it was. And again, I don't care. I don't get too wrapped up in all that stuff. But what does this do for Roman in terms of where they had him before the violation? Because he had the God spot in WWE. I mean, he was second only to John Cena in terms of company spotlight, company attention, company favor. And now, how would they look at him, seeing as how this whole thing is... And maybe the phrase blown up in their face is a bit much, because you can better believe a lot of people said that. You can better believe that a lot of people have had oh my God, they've had a ball with this thing. And they've had a lot of fun ripping on him. And, we like to see our heroes fall. And we can't wait for them to fall, because we can't wait to kick them in the teeth when they're down. And I remember, and I'm a big Beatles fan, okay, and just full disclosure, but I remember watching the anthology, and when it got to the bit about the Magical Mystery Tour, which is now considered, like film students watch that movie, and it's the music, of course, is fantastic, and it's the Beatles. Why wouldn't you love it? But at the time, it was Oh my God! And during the anthology series, Paul McCartney is like, look, this was everyone's chance to finally look at us and say, oh well, we told you. Look, they've screwed up now. See what they did? Because they always had their critics. As much as they were the biggest band on the planet, and they were, and they still are, they always had their critics. They had people looking at them, shaking their heads, saying, what are they doing now? This is crap. You know what I mean? So to me, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, if you're Roman Reigns, you better keep your nose clean. No pun intended, by the way. You better keep yourself clean, and you better be sure you're not doing anything wrong. Because if you're caught, if you do something stupid and you get caught, dude, it's going to hit the fan. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying that I'm glad it happened, because I'm not. I don't wish ill will on anyone in that company, from the guys that set the ring up to the ring announcers to Roman to anyone else, or to Vince himself. I never have. But at the same time, again, you have to be smart when you're under the spotlight and such incredibly close scrutiny as Roman was and is and always will be. As long as they continue to hype him as the top guy, and perhaps the new top guy, he's always going to be in the eye. Always going to be under the eye of the microscope. So as long as that's the case, man, then you have to be sure, if you're Roman Reigns, that you're doing everything right. Well, obviously he didn't. So we've got three gigantic stories right now. Really, the top three stories of the company, in my opinion, right now. You've got Roman Reigns' wellness policy violation and suspension for 30 days. And you've also got Dean Ambrose's win of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at Money in the Bank on June 19th. But the third big story of the company is Seth Rollins' return and his rise back to the top heel spot in that company, a spot that has not been filled since he was injured and put on the shelf. Because no one in that company is top heel besides Seth Rollins. He's the guy. No pun intended. The guy. I'm the guy. I'm not a guy. And by the way, how cool was it when Dean came out on Raw and said, I'm the dude? I mean, so many Big Lebowski references started pouring online and pouring out of yours truly, and it was like, oh, what a great moment. I hope it sticks. I want a t-shirt, because the moment they make a Dean Ambrose the Dude t-shirt, brother, that thing is going on my back. You better believe it, because in a heartbeat. And I'll advertise that fool's name all over town, dude. You better believe that. So, very cool. But those are the three big stories, man. And Seth Rollins' return, we can't lose the importance of Seth Rollins' return in the midst of all this, because the guy went out with career-threatening injury. And he came back, and dude, he looks fantastic. And we were talking earlier about, writing columns online and things of that nature. So I'm going to go ahead and hype a few here. On June 25th, I published a piece for Bleacher Report, Seth Rollins' best booking options for WWE Battleground 2016. Which, of course, is the next big event coming up on July 24th for that company. And Battleground is going to feature the main event match of all three Shield members vying for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. That's right, folks. As of this recording, and something could change, but as of this very recording right now, Roman is still booked in that match. So, there's a lot of stuff being said about it, but, we'll get to some of that here shortly. But we cannot make light of or forget or, somehow leave behind the fact that Seth, again, career-threatening injury. So what does Seth have to do to get himself ready? Not physically, but mentally, and then especially in terms of character. What does Seth have to do to get ready for Battleground? I think, as is always the case with that company, it all lies in the booking. It's not just in the guy's attitude. It's not just in the guy's ring work. It's in the booking. I think the first thing that needs to change with Seth, and this is just me talking, but I think the first thing that needs to change with Seth is his attitude. Because I don't believe that it's time to go back to the kooky Seth Rollins that fans fell in love with the first time around, because that Seth Rollins, that character, that is, was one part Edge as a babyface and one part Christian as a heel. And those guys are fun together. And those two personalities, if you put those two together, that's kind of what Seth was during his first run. But at this point, I believe his tone has to be a lot more serious, because now he's an intense guy that's out for revenge. His attitude's got to show that. I mean, he was robbed of the championship that he says he never lost. The fact that he didn't lose it, but then he lost it the moment after he won it to one of his most hated rivals and the guy he betrayed should play a gigantic factor in what his attitude is like right now. And that's especially true because the dude he's wrestling, Dean Ambrose, is kooky and wacky himself. And really, you've only got room for one head case at a time in this feud, and that's got to be the Lunatic Fringe. So in my opinion, you have to have Seth be more the Dean Martin to Dean Ambrose's Jerry Lewis, in my opinion. He's got to be a straight man. And I believe that's the only way it's really going to work here. I mean, I really think that's the only way it's going to work. And I mean, I could be wrong. They could pull it off and I suppose and go right back to what Seth was doing before, but I think it would be a missed opportunity. I mean, I think it's time to give this guy more of a sharper edge to him. And he can pull it off. I mean, he was fun the first time around, but this time around it should be a bit different. What's the next thing that needs to happen? Rollins needs to win. He's got to win all the time. He's got to win all the time. Whether he's on Raw or SmackDown, he's got to... And here's the key. I'm not talking about putting him against Zack Ryder. All due respect to Zack. Everyone loves Zack. Nothing personal. But I got a 7-year-old that can pin Zack Ryder. And Zack would do the job to him. Okay? Just saying. But these are not the kind of wins that Seth needs on the road to Battleground. He shouldn't. He needs to beat highly skilled, credible opponents. Okay? The guys that will test him and push him. Dolph is one of them, if I'm being honest with you. Sami Zayn, which he beat on SmackDown, he's one of them. Cesaro. He needs to beat guys who are good, who are the best hands in the company right now. I don't know if I would go as big as, as an AJ Styles, because I think that's a bit much. AJ is a main event talent. I certainly don't think I would go John Cena. But you could beat all the top hands at mid-card level, maybe even Owens, if you could, somehow work the match for it to make sense and to be logical. I'd be okay with that. But those are the wins that Seth needs. And, again, because people need to be reminded of how good Seth is in that environment. When you pair Seth with a great talent, someone who can keep up with him and who can perform as well as he can, then fans really get a glimpse of how good this guy is. And they need to be reminded of that. Now, let's keep this in mind real quick, though. That does not mean, none of this means that Seth needs to stop cheating. He shouldn't stop cheating. He was the top heel in the company before he got hurt, and he's going to be there again. He should be there again. But fans have to witness his devious nature, firsthand. They got to see that between the two men, between Dean and Seth, that is, Seth is the least deserving to be champion because he is inherently bad. It's the best way to get Dean over, but it's also going to get Seth over as well. I mean, the drama between these two is their history. Not just what happened in the bank, but the history that got them there to begin with. That's Seth's betrayal of Dean and Roman when the Shield, fell, when they were, destructed, fell apart. Demolished before your very eyes, man. I mean, Seth is the traitor. He's the one, and I mean, Ambrose is the hero that's finally found his way. Seth is the traitor that ended the most dominant faction in WWE history. Rollins is the villain of this piece, and that can never be forgotten. Because as much as fans love Seth, this stuff about we're going to pull for Seth over the hill in the ring, you got to stop. Because Seth, you're doing a disservice to Seth. And I know people think they're being smart. There's so many smart moron fans in the crowd now. And, I get just as frustrated with them as you guys do. And I hope none of you are some of these fans. I hope you're not. If you are, please stop because you're ruining it for all of us. I mean, you can say and do what you want to say and do in a pro wrestling crowd. You have that right. But, don't be a friggin' douche about it. No sense in it, okay? There's no sense in that. But, you're doing a great disservice to Seth. Seth is vying for your hate. He's not vying for your cheers. Seth is going to be the top heel. He was a top heel before. He didn't deserve you to cheer him out of the building, and he doesn't need it now. If you really want to do right by Seth, then hate him. If you really want to play the game, then play along. Hate Seth. Stop doing this thing where you're being cute about it. There's no sense in it, man. It's friggin' ridiculous, and we all hate you for it. Don't you care that we hate you for it? Because we all hate you, man. All of us do. So stop doing it. Here's the thing. WWE needs stability at the top. Okay? I'm getting off my soapbox. Don't worry, I'll get back on it later. It's just a matter of time. But WWE needs some stability at the top. That stability was Roman. It's not so much Roman now. I think it's Dean. And I knew that at some point I would be talking about Dean as WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I sure didn't think it was going to be right now. And I sure didn't think I was going to be so okay with it. But if you go back and you look at that promo that Dean cut on the Raw after, on the July 20th edition of Raw, the Raw after Money in the Bank on June 19th, go back and look at that promo that Dean cut on Raw. He is so tuned in. I mean, dude, he is absolutely looking amazing and sounding amazing in the midst of that. I mean, it was great stuff. And I wrote a column for Sportskeeda, which was published on June 24th, 5 reasons why Dean Ambrose must remain in WWE's top spot. And for my money, he absolutely must stay there because, dude, he fits. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but you know, for me, I'm not going to write a top 50 reason. I did a top 5. Listen, man, you got to be able to click and read and then move on with your life. I want to do that, don't you? I mean, everyone's got, stuff to do. I mean, me included. I got to go write more stuff for you to read and record more podcasts. Podcasts. Sometimes we get tongue-tied here at Boink. What are you gonna do, man? We're only human, right? But as it pertains to Dean, going from Seth to Dean real quick here. Again, the big news, each parcel of news, each tidbit of news involves each guy. And the big news about Dean, of course, is that he is your new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. When he came out on Raw, the promo I'm telling you about, if you haven't seen it, go back and see it on YouTube. If you have seen it, watch it again. It's well worth a second viewing. I mean, he is absolutely killing it. Okay? It all starts with him. Okay? I mean, he fits perfectly. Why should he stay in the top spot? Well, for one thing, he's over. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, Tom, you have to be over, right? Isn't that the point, to get over? Is that the only reason? I didn't say that. It's not just a matter of being over. I mean, but here's the thing. This didn't happen for Dean overnight. The moment the Shield failed, Dean didn't get over and was considered world title material the next night on Raw. The next night on SmackDown or the next week on Raw. It didn't happen. This came from all of his time in the Shield. That when fans hated that group. Okay, this came from when the Shield became anti-heroes and turned on Kane and turned on the Authority. This came when Seth betrayed the Shield. And of course, if you've been a fan of Ambrose before in the past, when he was John Moxley on the indie circuit, then this came then as well. It came from everything he did before WWE and since then. And this is the culmination of a career's worth of hard work, determination, and passion for the business. When fans look into Dean's eyes, they see a man that wants it more than anyone else. Okay? And that's the key here. He wants it more than anyone else. This is what it means to be over. If you're going to claim that distinction, in order to claim that distinction, you have to be able to maintain it. Ambrose can maintain it. I believe he can. Maybe I couldn't have said that a couple months ago, but he convinced me. I'm on board. Sometimes all you need is one great promo to change your mind, and it worked for me because I've bought into Dean as heavyweight champion of the world. I have, straight up. He's in full control. His confidence is at an all-time high, and he looks the part, man. He's over, and that's what matters. Why else should he be there? He can make it work. Okay? He can make it work. And this is a big deal for people who hate Roman, who have criticized Roman, because, and here's the thing, despite how much criticism that he's gotten for his ring work, you can't deny how far Roman has come. Fact is, he's improved beyond what many likely believed he ever could do, but he's no Dean Ambrose. You understand? Dean doesn't have to improve with time. He doesn't need a year's worth of main event matches and spotlight to become superstar WWE wants. He's ready now. You get that? What happened to the days of we give the top championship to the guy who's ready? Roman wasn't ready. They thought he was. He wasn't. The only time Roman's going to be ready, he has to go through the wars. He's not gone through them. And people think he has. He's not. Okay? His character stayed the same. Nothing's changed. He hasn't. He's the same static character today he was the day the Shield fell. And, you have to go through change. That's the number one criticism John Cena receives on a daily basis, is that he never freaking changes. And it's not realistic in the slightest, man. It never has been. It never will be. Because real people go through tragedy. They go through problems. They go through depression. They go through frustration. They're stressed out. They're angry. They're hurt. They're happy. They're sad. They have basic human emotions. Something that John Cena doesn't have. All John Cena has is, I will fight and I will fight and I will never back down. And every time he comes out to a crowd that hates him and boos him and hates everything about him and boos him out of the building, what's he say? We got a rowdy crowd tonight. No, we don't. They don't like you. Stop acting like they're not booing you, John. Roman's the same deal. Stop acting like it's not there. Now, I can't very well get mad at Roman, and you shouldn't either. I can't very well get mad at John, and you shouldn't either. What you have to get mad at is WWE's insistence on never changing these guys up, never giving them an opportunity to explore the full span, the full width of their characters, and knowing full well that these guys are human, that they should have the opportunity to, to get in there and to, again, just be allowed to be human. I don't care how big your characters are. If you're too far above the realm of possibility, you're never going to connect. The Undertaker would have been nothing more than just a carnival act. The Undertaker would have been nothing more than just a spectacle. He would not have been loved as he is now had he never let his guard down on WWE programming and be shown to be human. And I know what people say about the biker gimmick. I know they don't like it. A lot of people hate it. But dude, I got to tell you, man, for my money, it was those moments that, when Taker were actually speaking full sentences and, sound like a human being for a change. You saw his wife, you saw his house, you saw his truck, for crying out loud. He rode a motorcycle to the ring. He was a biker. He was a bad dude, right? And in my opinion, that centered the Undertaker character. It recreated him, and gave him a new spin, a new lease on life in WWE, and gave him, allowed him to reinvent himself. But at the same time, it also humanized him in a way that I think should have been done. Why do you think the Boogeyman was nothing but a carnival act and then disappeared into the distance, faded into the background? There was never a call to bring Boogeyman back. There was never a call, there was never an online petition to bring him back. There's not an online petition to bring Hornswoggle back. He was a circus act. Now, all due respect to Hornswoggle. Okay, if you've heard any of his podcast appearances since he was released from WWE, good guy. He is. He's got a kid that he's raising as a single parent. Good guy. He didn't want to be released, obviously. He was just shy of 10 years with the company. Amazing stat, by the way. But WWE never gave you a chance to connect with Hornswoggle. The only time you connected with him was when a guy like Mark Henry or Kane would throw him around and beat him up. And then you're like, oh, that sucks. He's so little. But they never let you know the guy behind the scenes. They never let you know him as a real man. It never came out. They never really told you about him. Now, understand this is coming from the guy that is still a firm believer in kayfabe. But I think that, in my opinion, when it comes to guys like Undertaker and it comes to guys like Boogeyman and Hornswoggle and Goldust, okay, Bray Wyatt even for that matter, when it comes to certain characters, kayfabe is a great, amazing asset. It allows you to get sucked into the storyline, allows you to connect with the situation and want to be and want to watch it and be a part of it, but you never connect with the guy behind it because he's so untouchable. He's not real. He's a comic book character come to life. Comic books are great, and I love me some comic books. You know me, man, right? But take, for example, Superman. I can't connect to Superman. It's impossible. I can't. I have a hard time connecting to Batman. And I lost my father when I was 4.5. So I can connect to Bruce Wayne in that aspect. But Bruce Wayne's stinking rich. And he's got tech beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, Iron Man does too, but Tony Stark's very human, and that's the age-old debate of Marvel versus DC, where in DC, it's all about the costume. In Marvel, it's all about the guy wearing the costume. There will always be a difference between the two publishers. Never you forget that, okay? And, I think the same idea applies to gimmicks, especially the I don't want to say bizarre, but, the spectacles is what I call them. Undertaker is a spectacle. But again, I don't think you ever would have been able to connect to him at all had it not been for him becoming human. Now, in my opinion, that's what causes a guy to get over and what causes him to get in there where fans can watch him and they say, you know what, he's one of us. He's one of us. He can make it work. I mean, you look at Dean. Dean looks like he stepped out of the crowd. He looks like he stepped out of the crowd, and you could meet him in a bar and hang out with him, play cards with him, play pool with him. You go out and get in a fight with him. He'd have your back. You know what I mean? He's a bit crazy, but he's that one friend you have who's unpredictable, but he's loyal to the end. And that's what you think of Dean Ambrose. That's who that is. Who's Roman Reigns to you? I'm just asking the question. Who is he to you? Because I don't picture myself hanging out with Roman Reigns. I think Dean and I could hang out. I think maybe Seth and I could hang. But Roman, to me, Roman feels so far, I don't want to say he's above me, but he would run with a different crowd than I would. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people look at him in the same light. I think a lot of people look at John in the same light as well, because John's untouchable. Now, he tries to be human, and they've done, I guess, a fairly good job of trying to make him human. But dude, again, when your personality never changes, it's like, and I know what it is. It's the idea of, well, I'm going to treat this as a real sport. In my opinion, John's character is treated like he were in the NBA or in the NFL. He was a blue chip player straight out of college, and he got drafted to WWE. WWE is his team. And despite the rise and fall, how the team plays that season, whether they win games or lose games, whether the guys get hurt or don't get hurt, whether they win the championship or not, John's the same player. He's still going to give you A+ effort. When he gets hurt, he rehabs, he comes back early. He comes back as soon as he can. He's consistently the MVP, and he'll win as many championships as he can for you. And he doesn't let the game change him. He's basically the same guy. Dude, that's great. If that's the story behind the scenes, that's great. If John's friends and family know him today that knew him 20 years ago and say, yep, it's the same John, he's never changed. He's still my best friend. He's still this. He's still that. That's great. You know what? That's awesome. I think that's great. And you know what? As a man, I think that's awesome. Don't let the business change you, dude, because for anyone that sits back and reads the horror stories of guys that have OD'd and they become alcoholics, or they've done much worse than all that, they've hurt themselves or someone else, well, the business did it to them. No, it didn't. They did it to themselves. See what I'm saying? Personal responsibility. You allow the business to change who you are as a man or as a woman. Well, John hasn't done that. And to me, again, as a man, I respect that. That's a fantastic story. If that is truly the case with John Cena, good on him. Guess what? This ain't the NFL. This ain't the NBA. This ain't Major League Baseball. This is professional wrestling. In professional wrestling, you are allowed to have issues. That you have to tell a story. Your character has to have issues. And your character has to change. Your character has to evolve and get better or get worse and do whatever he or she must do in order to tell that story. And John's only method of storytelling is what Roman's method of storytelling is that, I'm going to get booed out of the building. I'm going to take a tongue lashing from fans online and in the crowd who think they know me, but they really don't, who hate me because I'm getting an opportunity, and screw that because I'm going to keep doing what I do. And they can hate me if they want to. That's not a very compelling story. That's why people can't connect to Roman. That's why I can't connect to Roman. It's nothing personal to Roman Reigns as a man behind the character, but I truly can't connect with that dude. I just can't do it. I mean, a lot of people have a problem with that. A lot of people can't connect to that. That's why Roman is untouchable for a lot of different reasons. That's why he is. And that's why Dean is not. Because again, and I think it's the CM Punk factor. It's the Daniel Bryan factor. It's the Dusty Rhodes factor. It's that element that Stone Cold Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin as a character, he couldn't have been a circus act. He couldn't have been a spectacle. I mean, he was in terms of making money and the grandeur of the moment. Oh my God, there he is. He's got such a presence. But he can never be that because, people can connect to him. They can look at him. They can understand what it's like to hate your job. They can understand what it's like to hate your boss. And they want to be able to be into a situation and stand up like a man. Stop taking a beating. Stop getting kicked in the face. Stand up like a man and say, screw you, I'm not taking this anymore. You're not running my life. I run my life from now on. You see what I mean? That's important. That means something. It should mean something. It means something to me. It's what I want to teach my kid. It's what I'm trying to teach my kid right now. And he's 7 years old. But that's what you need. You need characters that people can connect to. That's what works. This is not, you know what? As much as I write about the business and as much as my columns can sound, and I know at times it's like, well, you gotta from point A to point B, add 2 + 3, and then carry the 1. You see what I mean? But like at the end of the day, it's real simple math. You got to connect to the fans and get over. And if you can't do that, you're not going to succeed. Now, what gets you over? Does painting yourself in gold and weather and wearing a feather boa and having a manager that smokes a big stogie, does that get you over? Then do it. Does having your hair combed down, your eyes, wearing a leather jacket, calling yourself a maniac, a lunatic fringe get you over? Then do it. What else? Does wearing black eyeliner and wearing purple and black and coming out and bowing down on one knee to an urn get you over? Then do it. You see what I'm saying? All that matters is that you make a connection, that somehow you establish something to fans. CM Punk, same deal. Okay? I mean, the guy he drew X's on his hands, and he came out and said he was straight edge. His gear was never flashy. He never had a flashy entrance. He never had pyro. His lighting wasn't better than anyone else's. He had great music at the end. Thank you, Living Color. But he looked like an ordinary guy. Ambrose, ordinary guy. Daniel Bryan, for God's sake, an ordinary guy. These are the talents that get over. But then you're going to tell me that a former football player who's born into a pro wrestling family with long, dark, curly hair and a big Samoan tattooed up like The Rock, he's The Rock's cousin, you're going to stand there and tell me that he's going to connect. Now, in your opinion, he's going to get over. But let me ask you this. Let's forget The Rock's history. Let's forget The Rock's history for a moment, if you can. Let's forget the millions and millions, and let's forget all of that. Let's forget all that stuff. Let's forget Rocky Maivia and Die Rocky Die. Let's forget the terrible haircut and the terrible ring gear. Let's forget the Nation of Domination. Let's forget all that. And let's say that The Rock, looking like he looks today, came into the business. He'd be hated. He would be hated. Now, as soon as he picked up the mic, people would love him. He'd have a hard time getting over. Do you want to know why? Because he's out of touch. Rock is a millionaire. He was just voted like the 54th most powerful man in entertainment or in Hollywood or something. I don't really pay attention to stuff like that. That's pretty big. People can't connect to The Rock. If The Rock ever lost his gift of gab, no one would give a crap about him anymore. How do I know I'm right? They turned on him. Remember his heel run when Goldberg came in? They turned on Rock. I mean, they did. They didn't give a crap about him anymore. Rock came back and it felt like, oh, you're back again. Well, thanks so much for coming back and gracing us with your presence, Hollywood actor. That's what it felt like. Now, he didn't mean for it to be that way, I'm sure. And if you knew Rock as a man, as a person, he's probably a really cool dude. Okay? I'm just telling you what, perception. Perception is reality when it comes to the pro wrestling crowd. You know I'm right. If we see it one way, that's how we see it. And it's hard to change people's minds. Now, it worked with Rocky because, again, it's Rock and he can get over as soon as he starts talking. But there for a long time, it was like, God, shut up and go and make another movie. I'm sick of this crap. That's why when John took jabs at him, it worked. Okay? People hate John, too, for a lot of the reasons I just talked about. But the reason why when he and Rocky had their rivalry, the reason that John took shots and it worked and people popped off of it was because it was 100% true. Because he said a lot of the things people had always thought about Rocky, but either did not want to say on the air or couldn't say on the air, or said and no one was listening or didn't believe them. But he said a lot of those things and it got over because, again, people saw that stuff and they're like, yeah, man, he does kind of leave whenever he wants to. And he came in and he got rich off the business and then got famous, then he left us high and dry and he's never here. And he came back and said, The Rock's home. He's never leaving again. And then it caused John to come out and say, he's never here again. Well, he's not here now, which forced Rock to come back and say, well, I didn't mean it literally. It's like Bill Clinton saying, define the word is. What is the definition of the word is? Oh my God. Nonsense, right? How do you connect to Roman Reigns? Now, again, I'm not suggesting he's not a cool cat. I didn't say that. He's a married guy. He's got a daughter. He's in love with his kid. I can relate. That's awesome. He's probably a fantastic dad. I'm not suggesting he's not. And again, you know when you get stuff from Tom Clark's Main Event, when you get stuff that's written by yours truly, I don't take personal shots. I don't bash because there's no point in it. There's real men and women behind these characters and behind these gimmicks. Never you forget that, okay? So again, it's not personal. Never has been, never will be. But can you connect to Roman Reigns? Because I can't. I can't. There's no possible way I can. So Dean has a leg up. A lot of guys have a leg up, but because Dean is the champion, he has a tremendous leg up right now. He can change whenever the situation calls for it. His transition would be seamless. He can slow down the ring or he can go 100 miles an hour. That if he needs him to turn heel, he can turn heel and make it work. He will wear the championship like a man that's meant to wear it. And he will do it all because of everyone WWE could have chosen for the spot. Dean is the man that can make it work. Why else would Dean need to be champion right now and stay that way? Because it sets up a Roman Reigns heel turn. For all the reasons I just mentioned to you before, man, Roman at some point as a real character, as a real man would say, I'm sick of trying to make people happy. I try to make people happy. And you know what? You're right. You're right. I did fail a wellness violation. I did fail a wellness policy. I had a wellness policy violation. You know what? I'd do it again. And by the way, it's none of your business what I do with my personal life. That's my business. Do you see what I mean? I mean, that's what fans are waiting on is for Roman to turn heel. Now, I know what you're saying. People are going to say, well, Tom, that won't work. As soon as Roman turns heel, guess what? Fans are going to cheer for him. He'll be over his babyface again. It's going to be all a tremendous waste of time. No, it's not. Don't be stupid. Please. People want to hate Roman and to boo him. Let's let them do it and go along with it. He'll turn face again, but it's not going to happen right now. It didn't happen for Rock. It didn't happen for a lot of guys. Let him be heel for a while. Let him just have fun, experience that, okay? Let him just be that guy. And he can do that, and I think he'd be a tremendous heel. That's another reason why you keep Dean in the spot. We talked about CM Punk. Dean has a CM Punk factor. He looks like everyone else. He does. Now, I know what you're saying to me, but Tom, if you look like everybody else, what makes you special? This is pro wrestling we're talking about. Again, connection. Are you not listening? Connection, man. Dean's a star. Listen to that. Go back and watch the Raw after Money in the Bank and tell me he's not a star. Tell me he's not owning this like a man. That he's not owning this like a main event player, like the World Heavyweight Champion. He's owning it. At the end of the day, no matter what you think about Roman, no matter what you think about Dean or Seth, Roman is not the right guy. He's not. WWE tried. You can't fail the company for trying. They gave him every opportunity to get over. He can't do it. Okay? And had Roman not violated the wellness policy, WWE probably would have kept him in the same spot. He probably would have held that belt till SummerSlam, maybe after. He probably would have held all the way up to WrestleMania 33 and maybe after. He would have kept being pushed and poked and prodded and shoved in your face as WWE's top protagonist, and fans would have hated him even more for it. But none of that, not 1 ounce of it, would have ever justified his place in that spot. Because despite how much he's improved, and despite how much his supporters want to believe otherwise, Roman is just not the right guy. Not right now. Plan A didn't work, folks. Plan B has to be put into effect, and that's where Dean comes in. It's the most unexpected turn of events that even I couldn't see coming. But WWE has got to look at the bigger picture here, man. And they did. Roman did the best he could with what he had. And does Roman own some of the blame for this? Yes. Does WWE own some of the blame for this? Yes. I think you throw blame in both directions. But I think, honestly, from man to man here, I think Roman did the best he could with what he had. He put forth an admirable effort, but it did not help his cause. He had over a year's worth of spotlight, promoting, main event booking to get him over. He couldn't get there. Dean had the same amount of time, with half the work done by WWE, half the promoting, half the spotlight. And one night, he shot to the top, believably, and got over. He is the face that many likely believe would never main event WWE's top spot, but he's doing it better than Roman did. How you like that? How you like that? It's cool, man. Again, I'm not saying by any means that I have any hate for Roman. I never have. I never will. And that's the truth. I'm just telling it like I see it, man. Dean's over, Roman's not. So have at it. Discuss. But I tell you this, man, no matter what you think about any of the three of them, separately or together, whatever, you have to say, and this is the truth, you have to say that it worked. It worked 110%, man. The Shield owns that company. And I'm good with that. I'm totally good with that. I'm good with Roman. I think that there's potential there for him to become the hottest heel that company's seen in years. Bigger than Seth was. My opinion. I mean, people keep looking for the next Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's not coming. I'm sorry to break it to you. He's not coming. The closest they had since Austin was Punk. And Punk was too much of his own man. Austin is too, obviously. But there's more controls in place now. There's more riders. There's more hands stirring the pot. You know, when it was just up to Vince and Russo and Ed Ferrara and maybe one or two other people, if that many, Austin had doors open and Austin could be himself and do what he wanted to do and be given full discretion to do what he wanted to do, and it worked. Too many hands on Punk. Too many guys telling him no. Too many guys trying to put words into his mouth. But he was the biggest thing that'd be in terms of Austin since Austin. Guess what? There's not another Stone Cold coming. There's not. Sorry. But there could be another $1 Million Man. Okay? There could be another Roddy Piper as a heel. There could be another top heel that years later, there could be another Jake the Snake Roberts as a heel. Okay? I'm not saying the character. I'm saying the spot. Top heel. That when you look back on the history of the company, you say, my God. Oh, my God, I hated that guy. I hated that guy so much. Oh, I could have killed that guy. That could be Roman. The Ric Flair as a heel in the NWA. Again, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying Roman's going to compare to any of these guys in the ring. I'm not suggesting that. Don't twist my words. What I'm saying is the top heel spot, man. I mean, maybe we should quit looking for the next Stone Cold and look for the next top heel. And I think Roman could be that guy. I truly believe that. So, again, no matter how you look at it, the Shields took over. They're triumphant. I mean, straight up, man. I'm trying to bring this full circle. Can you tell? I hope so, because I'm trying to do a good job at it. So what'd you think, man? Did you like the episode? Because we're taking it home now. I'm going to close the show as I always do and tell you where to find my stuff and our stuff and the production company and all that good stuff and a bunch of other stuff. I love the word stuff. I'm going to start another podcast. I am. Me and my kid's going to do one together. I didn't tell you this, did I? I've been keeping it under wraps. But we're going to. It's got a great title. And as soon as I get ready to tell you, I'm going to announce it. We're going to promote it, get some episodes recorded, and the thing's going to be fun as crap, dude. Trust me. And I might do one on my own again. Who knows? We'll see what happens. I love doing this. I love it. It's become, I wish I had more time. That's all I can tell you. I wish I did. Hope you've loved it. Hope you've enjoyed it. Let's take it home, folks. If you would like to check out my work, it is always greatly appreciated. Remember that I operate under the banner of our production company, Boink Studios. It's owned by myself and great friend Kyle Smith. You can find us, Boink Studios, on Facebook. You can also find us on Twitter. Please give us a follow at Boink Studios. We will follow you back. You can also find our blog with all content written by yours truly, tomclarkbr.wix.com/Boink. All the artwork on that particular website as it pertains to the Boink Studios logo and everything that goes along with it is done by Kyle himself. The music you heard on this podcast and on our sister podcast, by the way, which if you haven't subscribed and downloaded by now, is called Tom and Kyle's Comedy Action Hour. All the artwork was done on that podcast by Kyle as well, just as a side note. And all the music on both these shows is done by Philip Goose Fender, who also works out of Boink Studios. Great facility we have here and a great production company. And I hope that you're enjoying the content. We get as much content out as often as we can. All the work that I put out, all of my work online, I always work under the Boink Studios banner. So that's where you can find our stuff. So please give us a follow. Subscribe to Tom Kyle's Comedy Action Hour. Subscribe to this podcast if you haven't done it yet. Please start downloading the episodes. They download instantly to your smart device. And guess what? We're free. We're always going to be free, dude. We don't charge for archived episodes or anything of that nature. Just go back and listen. And please do it because we appreciate your patronage as always. Okay? But you can find me online if you want to read some of my WWE material. You can find a great big whole bunch of it on BleacherReport.com. I'm on the WWE page as a featured columnist, 6 years strong. Thank you very much. You can also find me on the highly esteemed Camel Clutch blog owned by a great blogger and great guy, Eric Gargiulo. And I always hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you, Eric, for the platform on which to speak my opinion. You can also find me on sportskeeda.com. I also have my own blog, which I haven't updated in about a month, but I'm going to get back to it as soon as I can. That one is tomclarkbr.wix.com/blog. I'm also on Twitter at tomclarkbr. If you want to drop us a line for Boink Studios, if you want to get in touch with either Kyle or Philip Goosefender in terms of getting some of their freelance work for art and or music or both, give us an email, boinkstudios@yahoo.com. If you'd like to contact me personally, it's tomclarkbr@yahoo.com. Dude, I think that's it. What do you think? Hope you enjoyed it, man. This has been episode number 55. We're going to be back real soon for number 56. We got to thank you again for tuning in with us and for listening to the show. Please feel free to drop us a line. Give us your feedback. Tell us what you think. Give us your thoughts and opinions. What would you like to hear a show on? What would you like to read a column about? We're all ears, man. Again, we're here for you. And we hope you've enjoyed the ride. And we have a blast bringing it to you. So thanks once again for listening. Thanks for reading. Thanks for tuning in. And we will see you next time on Tom Clark's Main Event.